Okay, are we live? Let me see here. Yes, we are live. And can you hear me? Ooh. Why is it that dark? That's not correct. Okay. Let's do like this. Now you can probably see better. Hey, are you hearing me okay? You inspire me to keep on drawing. Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, now it looks good. Hey, how is everyone? Hey, Leafy. Hey, everyone. Now, the thing we are going to do today is to be following this book, which is one of the books that I learned how to draw with, chapter by chapter, until we've done the whole book. Today is probably going to be a shorter stream again because there's a lot of things happening. And once I get everything set up with my gear and with my setup and with the streams, then, it will be easier to do these streams and actually use a couple of hours or more to go through many chapters. But today I still have other things I have to do when this live is done. So it'll be a quick chapter. But on the other hand, it will be fun. Just popping by to tell you you're great and your videos are super enjoyable. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you. And remember that I release all my art for free use. If you think that's cool, you can download it, you can sell it, you can change it, you can do whatever you want as long as you use my name. And if you think that's cool, then please consider, I will be doing like this to get myself a little bit more in the frame. Okay, so like, no, the other way it is. Okay, I see. Like this. Yes. Now I'm in the frame. Okay, so what I was saying was, if you think that's cool, then please consider supporting if you can. Become a YouTube member for $5 a month, or 10 or 25 depending on the perks you want. The most perks will be on the $5 level when I get everything going. Or become a patron. Again, the most perks will be on the $5 level when I get that going. Or buy things from my store, denungeherrholm.com. Now let's dig in to Bridgman. Hey Kermito, nice to see you. So we did the first chapter last time, and now we're going to get to the chapter called Building the Figure, which is a fun chapter because we're actually going to build. And the text says, from a piece of lath and a few inches of copper or other flexible wire, a working model of solid portions of the bodies. Sorry, I'm reading very bad today, but I will get into the groove. A working model of the solid portions of the body may be constructed. Cut 3 pieces from the lath I don't know what lath is, to represent the three solid masses of the body, the head, the chest, the hips. Approximately, the proportions of these three blocks reduced from the skeleton should be head 1 inch by 5/8 of an inch. I don't know what an inch is. Torso 1.5 inch by 1.25 inch, and hips 1 inch by 1.25 inch. So we'll take it by, we'll just wing it. Drive 2 parallel. Okay, I don't really need to read all of this because I've done it before, so I know what the point is. And now we're going to bring forth some clay. It's okay. I'm not much of a sculptor, but I hope my sculpting ability is good enough to build what I need today. Now, we're going to do the different pieces. The chest piece, I think that seems like a good chest. That's a good chest for now. And then a smaller head piece. We can do like this, and then the hip piece, more or less. Now these aren't quite correct yet, but we'll get there. And this is just like dew and dry modeling material. So it's a modeling material that dries and hardens without going in the oven. So it's very easy to use. And we're not going to do anything fancy. And the reason, you don't need clay today, but the reason we're going to do this so simply and do these as blocks instead of trying to model something more lifelike, I could say. These two look good now, I guess, because we want the hard edges. Okay, now we need, this one as well. So this is going to be like something like that. And they don't need to be 100% correct. It just needs to be 4 sides. No, 6 sides on all of them, like a dice. So we're going to pack this piece down again. And always pack the clay in plastic so that you can use it later. And then I have this piece, which is a little bit harder than ideal, but we'll manage to work with this somehow. Let's, I'll impress you more. Ow, by hitting my head. Let's bring forth our anvil. So everyone has a little anvil on their drawing table, right? You gotta have the anvil. The anvil is useful for so many things. Like, okay, this is the first time I've used the anvil, but was in the attic when we got the house, so I knew it would be useful someday. Yeah, Crayola, you don't need clay. You can use anything that you can fashion into very basic blocks. It doesn't need to be complicated at all. Okay, I don't know if we will manage to make this easy to stand upright. An anvil next to my bed. Again, extremely useful. Okay, try to get this. Now we're doing the spine, so we're fastening the spine on this side, and we can use a little bit of tape in order to fasten it the right place. Now I hear there's someone approaching. Is there?
Stream?
I'm streaming, yes.
Can I come?
But don't show your face, and it's filming against the trap, I almost said, but the staircase in English. So there is a mask up there. You're not in the picture. Okay, and then we're fastening the next part. Like, oh, no, we want to be more like here, close to the back, because this is the spine. And then again, we're going to just fasten it again with some tape, and you can use styrofoam, you can use children's plastilina, you can use erasers, you can use anything as long as you can cut it into these 3 boxes. Because, are you going again?
Yes. Bye.
Bye. A little visitor on our live, and then we're going to do the tape first on the head, because that's on the top, so it's, but we need to do it a little bit. The neck isn't quite as okay, we're doing it the wrong way, but we can just twist it around here. Doesn't really matter, because the neck isn't a part of this. Okay? So, this will be more usable once it dries. But this is our very basic drawing figure. And the thing that makes this one better than most drawing figures is that when you buy a little model drawing figure, it is usually fashioned a lot like a human. But what we're going to use this for is simply seeing how the shadow hits different parts of the figure, and that's a lot easier to see when, let's just take this, when the, oh, sorry, I need to, oh, he fell over. So we'll zoom a little bit out so you can see him more easily. Like this. And we're going to use this light here. We're going to try to draw him some different ways. Can he? Oh, I didn't make a very balanced thingamabob. Okay. So if we say that this is the front of the head, then we have basically the lighting for the whole body, and then you can start, and this would be easier if I found the copper wire that I had pre-prepared for this live, but I lost it. So I'm sorry, this is going to be not quite as smooth as it could have been. Let's put him here for now. Oh, he's always falling. Fell on top of my computer. What? He fell and took away YouTube. He doesn't like YouTube. Okay. Tape it to the table. Yes, I could do that. So, he's standing, okay, but he needs to be standing in camera. Okay. Now he's standing in camera. Lovely. And then we will continue to see what Bridgman says. And I would recommend that you make one of these, but you must use a bendier wire than what I used. Hey, beep up. And here you can see the examples of how it's used. Okay? So instead of thinking about how every part of the body moves, you just think about those 3 boxes, and that decides the rest of the drawing. The rest of the text here is just describing this, how to make this and what the function is. So I'm going to skip over. No, I'll read it because maybe there's something I missed here. And one of the reasons why I'm doing this as a regular live is that when I revisit a book like this, and even when I read a new book, it's so easy to just skip over parts and just miss important stuff. And I've read this book and drawn this book many times, but I've probably missed some things. So let's just not be stupid and let's just read it all. So drive 2 holes perpendicularly through the center of the thickness of each of the blocks as closely together as practicable. With shock absorbing cartilages between them. So something to absorb the shock, like I put in here. Wire the blocks together by running a strand of flexible wire through each of the holes. My wire wasn't flexible enough, but I will substitute it with the copper wire once I find it. allowing about half an inch between each of the blocks, and twist the wires together. So this is basically, this is the length of the stomach, length of the stomach, and the length of the neck, and that's, so that is compared to how you measure it for your one. Oh. This is the falling figure live. The wire, in a rough way, represents the spine or the backbone. The spine is composed of a chain of firm, flexible joints or discs of bone with shock-absorbing cartilages between them. That's what I'm missing in my back. So on 3 of the spines. So that's why I hurt my back all the time. There are 24 bones in the spine, each bending a little to give the flexibility of the body, but turning and twisting mostly in the free space between the head and the chest, and between the chest and the hips. The spine is the bond of union between the different parts of the body. So in this simplification, we do not need to worry about how the hip bends or how the chest bends. It does bend a little, but it bends so much less than anything else. So you can, for this purpose, we can ignore it for this basic figure. And as I said, personally, I think this figure is a lot more useful than the more human-like figures that you can buy in art stores and toy stores for art purposes. The portion of this wire between the head and the chest blocks represents the neck. On the neck, the head has the power to bend backward and forward, upward and downward to turn. The head rests upon the uppermost vertebra of the spine, to which it is united by a hinged joint. Upon this joint, it moves backwards and forwards as far as the muscles and ligaments permit. The bone beneath this hinged joint has a projection or point resembling a tooth. This enters a socket or hole in the bone above and forms a pivot or axle upon which the upper bone and the head, which it supports, turns. So one of the things that is a little bit, one of the reasons why it is easy to skip the text in this book is that not all of the text makes sense in a teaching art capacity. You don't really need to know exactly the mechanism of how the head is connected to the spine. You can say it's like a sort of a ball socket or something like that, and that would probably do. But the text of this book is not written just by Bridgman. It is a collection of notes and small text by Bridgman and students put together into this book, like the whole book, which is a shame because it could have been a much better book if it was written from the start as a book. But it is also still my favorite anatomy book because of the way it teaches art is, in my opinion, more useful and fundamental. I just bought the book and I find the directions quite vague. Draw the thigh. Yeah, you have to ignore the directions. The important part is to draw and draw and draw and draw. There are useful parts in the directions, but in themselves, they are not good enough. Okay? It's kind of like... it's not quite as bad as How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, where Stan Lee's text only acts to confuse Buscema's brilliant book. But the reason why this book is, and I said this before, the reason why this book is more fundamental for me than, for instance, How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, or the very popular, God damn it, Andrew Loomis books, and a ton of other books, is that all of them studied with Bridgman first. And while Loomis is useful particularly for advertising illustrations in the 50s, and still useful for art today, and Buscema's How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way is useful for comics and for kids, this one is sort of, it goes deeper, but it's hard to figure it out because you can't quite trust the text or the images. You just have to find your way through it. Okay? Okay. So when we nod, we use the hinge joint, and when we turn our heads, we use the pivot or axle. The wire between the two lower blocks represents that portion of the spine which connects the cage or chest above with the basin or pelvis below. This portion of the spine is called the lumbar region. It rests upon the pelvis or basin, into which it is mortised. Oui? Its form is a semicircular concave from the front. On this portion of the spine, the lumbar depends on the rotary movement between the hips and the torso. As the spine passes upwards, becoming part of the cage or chest, the ribs are joined into it. So basically just Hawthorne on painting has to be one of the worst books in my opinion. It's a collection of quotes about painting by his students, but without the paintings to look at. I haven't seen that book. I think I've heard the name. But this is more useful, but it's still it's not that. I need to be careful and not just brush aside the text here, because I'm reading it for a reason. It is, all of it is valuable, both the art and the text, but the way it is presented and put together isn't in a cohesive unit as a book to teach you step by step. Some parts are step by step, some in detail, some without detail. It is not like, for instance, Loomis's book, which goes in much more detail on what you should and shouldn't do. But my feeling, again, I've said this the last time, is that many who start by studying Loomis end up having a much stiffer style of drawing. And this lends itself to a looser and more dynamic way of drawing, I think. The masses of the head, chest and pelvis, represented by the three blocks, are in themselves unmoving, and that's the important part. Think of these blocks in their relation to each other and forget at first any connecting portions other than the slender wire of the spine. In this little tin soldier at attention, we have an example of the symmetrical balance of these blocks, one directly over the other. But this balance never exists when the body is in action, or seldom indeed when it is in repose. So this kind of standing to attention like a tin soldier is not a typical way that humans stand or move. We're always in motion. And again, that's one of the good things about this simple a model is that the way this simplifies the motion is extremely much more intuitive to understand than a more complex figure. Loomis's art itself wasn't all that stiff. It was stiffer than Bridgman's, but yes. But with any style, any way you learn to draw, you can move towards stiffer or looser. And any method that you put down in a book is at most a temporary snapshot of how well you manage to explain something, not for yourself, but for a potential reader. So none of these books are made to be followed 100%. And they weren't followed 100% by their authors either. But it is an approach, and then you take that and you learn it, and when you learn it well enough, then you can move in the looser or the stiffer direction, I think. Bridgman is probably more difficult, but you get much better rhythm and fluidity with your drawing. I agree. The blocks in their relation to each other are limited to the three possible planes of movement. They may bend forward and backward in the sagittal plane, twist in the horizontal plane, or tilt in the transverse plane. As a rule, all three movements are present, and they may be closely approximated by turning and twisting the three blocks on the little model of lathe and wire. The limitation to the movement of the spine limits the movements of the three masses or blocks. Such movement as the spine allows, also the muscles allow. Okay, well, that is that chapter. And now, since I chose to thick a wire, we won't be able to use this much today, but we will be drawing from the book, and I'll illustrate how you can use it. And then I'll fix this guy for the next time so that we can all enjoy him then. Okay. We have a couple of different pencils with me today. This is a 3B, which I've sharpened like this, and that is so that you can hold it further from the tip, which is more an artist style of holding a pencil. And this is more the comic book style. But I will be using the comic book style because this is easier for very loose lines, especially when it's as hard as a 3B. is this where where the live chat he's reading from is, or somewhere else? This is where I'm occasionally reading the live chat. Now let's try to see how these 3 blocks. And again, I apologize for the wire, so I can't really bend him. But let us start by, for instance, this shape, this position. So this position is the first box, like thus, okay? And then the second box is kind of similar. And then the last box, very different. Now, if we start tying the spine together, then the spine goes up in the back of the head. So you see that these are actually very different, because this is the front of the chest and this is the front of the head. And then the spine has to go like this, and all the way down here. Okay, so and if we remember from last session, you get one action side. I should probably have done this a little bit more like this. You get one action side, or jagged side, and one inaction side. So here is the inaction side of the chest, while here is the action, because here the butt and the back squeezes together, okay? And then when this side is the action side, then this is probably an inaction side, and the same here. Since this is the action side, then we will probably want to create some action on the thigh. Very excited. I have Andrew Loomis' drawing book about anatomy, but was considering getting this book too. I prefer this one. It is more difficult. It is not written in a way that makes all that much sense, but it is a lot better in my opinion. So now we can't bend the spine too much, but we can sort of try to emulate. Now this looks, from my angle, this looks close enough. We see that this is the part in shadow, and of course this is the part in shadow, and then these are the parts shadow, and this also has a little bit of shadow. And we can use that basic shadow pattern to guess at the other shadow patterns. Oh. And then we can also, just plain decide what are the arms doing. He's twisting like this. twisting, so he or she or it. Loomis is really stiff, except his book Fun with a Pencil. That one is enjoyable. I haven't read that one. So out from this figure we can basically draw what we want. Let's skip this one and do one of the other poses. This one, just look at the cleanness and elegance of these drawings. Or the looseness, they're not clean, they're loose. I love this drawing. So simple, so perfect. Let's try to copy that one. We'll start with just the head thingy, like this, and then the counterweight of the chest, and then the hip. That is the whole figure. This method looks really cool. I gave up trying to make realistic bodies a long time ago. I started working with non-standard shapes and it became a part of my process. It is my belief that as long as you have full mobility with your hand or whatever else you draw with, really, you can learn anatomy. It takes a while, but you can learn it. This book will give you a more dynamic approach to it, which requires slightly more artistry, I would say. I consciously avoided the Loomis method for that reason, because of the stiffness. I understand that. Loomis seems to focus on anatomy, which isn't my favorite. As I've learning, I think I prefer the loose shape language I've seen here so far. So that's the interesting part. Loomis, while John Buscema and Frank Frazetta and Will Eisner were all in Bridgman's classes for a little while. As far as I know, Loomis was Bridgman's assistant for a long time. So he was first a student, and then he worked, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't want to misspeak, but I can distinctly remember someone saying that. And what I think happened is that while Bridgman was focusing on art for art's sake, Loomis was focusing on educating people for advertising to a large degree. So let's see if we can find the shapes. Here and here you see again the quiet part, the action part, quiet part, action part, action part, quiet part. And that is not how the body actually works in real life, but it is how it sometimes works, actually, and it is brilliant for showing motion, showing energy, showing the fluidity and the elegance of the human shape. Disney did have his artists go to night school. I don't know if it was Bridgman teaching. Probably not. Bridgman was in New York and was most active, I think, from 1900 to 1930, 40, around there. And Disney was in Los Angeles. Interesting conversations in the chat now. Let us jump to the next page and see. This is a bit more. These figures are a bit more complete figures. So let's see if we can analyze them and find the basic blocks. And again, if we had this fella, and if we had used a wire thin enough to bend him, this would be easier. So I think this is the volume that's the plane that is easiest to get, like that. And then you have the butt here, so that's says that plane is like that, I think. And this plane is almost like, where is, it's hard to say, it is kind of like that. Then when we start building upon this figure, we can see if we got it right or not. Again. Definitely will look for a PDF version of this book. That is also good. I don't know if it's in the public domain yet. I think it's not. 1952 to, yeah, and the last book in the original series, the first book was in 1920, and the last book was in 1942. So yeah. So next time I think we're going to start by playing around with the new and improved version of this one. And then we are going to head to the next chapters, which is the proportion. Maybe we'll even go how to measure, and yeah, maybe we'll try to do a few of the different chapters. But today we're only going to do this chapter, and we're even going to stop very soon because I am not finished with my work for the day. So sorry about that. Okay, so I'll let the drawing be for now. I think we got enough out of that chapter. I think we will play around with this one at the start of the next stream, just to freshen up. And I'll answer a couple of questions before I go. Okay. Let me see. And also remember, you can send super chats. You can support on Patreon. You can become a YouTube member. And you can buy art and merch and prints from denungeherholm.com. The Internet Archive has an old version of this book for free. Excellent. Let me see. Yeah, it's all, even if you practice something stiff or loose, it's all about getting used to the anatomy, even if your drawing ends up wonky. Yeah, wonky drawings all day long. Wonky drawings all day long. Okay. What do you all mean by stiff and loose styles? We don't necessarily just mean stiff and loose as in the line quality. So this is a loose line, while this is a stiff line. But that's not all we mean. Very often, loose artists draw with a looser line, and stiffer artists draw with a stiffer line. But let me see if I can find some examples. Yeah, let me see what I can find. If I find my art books. Okay, we'll see. Here. So I have two of this Jack Kirby book. Why? I don't know. I must have bought it twice. Where is my Miller book? Yeah. Okay, so Miller is a very good example because he has a very loose line. If we can find something, let's see what we can find here. Yeah, so Miller has a very loose line, and he has very wonky anatomy, and he does all the bending and stuff. And Miller is my favorite. He does all the cartoony bending and all that stuff, but he is a bit of a stiff artist. He's always been stiff. It's a part of his style. Even when he's loose, like these beautiful drawings here, he is still stiff. While I would say, yeah, also here, Kirby, definitely stiff. You can see there is a lot of looseness in his own line work. And he's super dynamic. But all the shapes are a bit stiff. Now let's see if we can find an example of a loose artist. Well, Crumb is loose. But let's see if we can find someone who is a bit more Ah. I should have had my Conan comics here or something. Bushima was a very loose artist. So yeah. Thank you, Kim, for the explanation. Thank you, for Angie, for your reply. Also, that's what I interpreted loose and stiff as. Very interesting. Start loose and finish tight. That is an option. For instance, if you see Frank Miller's sketches, he starts quick, but he starts kind of tight. And then the inking often loosens it up. Miyazaki, I would think, would be loose. I haven't seen so much of his sketches. He's very dynamic in the movements, and I remember reading the Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind comic, and that was just beautiful, and it was also loose. Möbius is also loose. He can look stiff, but he's very loose. And basically, this is like wine tasting. It is loose or stiff because you feel it's loose or stiff. Kind of like a wine is oaky or dry because you think it is. There is no set definition. It's all compared to your expectations and to the work around it. But the way I sort of envision it is the looseness that I'm after is about the physicality of the art, of the motions of the art. So I'm looking for things that are drawn quickly with the body, using the body, and also transferring those things to the paper. And generally, if you are an artist who sit like this or like this, you are probably stiff or towards the stiffer. It's not 100%, but very tired. I need to work on some other stuff. Any final questions before I go? Before I go. Jason is a very famously stiff artist. He is magnificent comic book artist. Very stiff. But he also leans into his stiffness. I think that a lot of good artists are also good because they lean into what they already do well and avoid what they don't do well. I like to think of stiff as the character has a broom handle up their bum. That is also a way of putting it. Are you left-handed? Yes. Okay. I think this is everything for today's live. Thank you all for watching. I will be back on Thursday with another Draw What, where you get to decide what I draw, because that is fun. And then on next Sunday we will be teaming up with this little guy again. So, and he will be new and improved with some proper copper wire. If you like this stream, then please do support on Patreon, become a YouTube member, or support by buying stuff from our website. And if you can't afford any of that, support by using my art. All my art is available for free use, so you can download it, you can sell it, you can change it, you can do whatever you want with it, and I want you to do that as long as you put my name on it. Bye-bye.